Welcome to this short training of the Oracle Digital Assistant Concierge template. The Concierge template will help you to create an Oracle Digital Assistant in a really short time and bring value to your organization quickly. And there's absolutely no experience with Oracle Digital Assistant required. Every step is documented and easy to follow. So the first thing to do is to download all the required components, including the document that describes all the steps in details. The easiest way to do it is go to this bit.ly link ODA_CT. And if we download that zip, we can see that in there's the Concierge template folder, which we take out of the zip file, and we get into that folder. Here we find the document describing all the steps. We can now start to create a document that contains all the questions and answers. If you look in the zip file, you'll see a sample document is provided. The document can be created in any text editor. In this case, we use Microsoft Word, and the content of this document should always be a question ending with a question mark, and then the answer following below. In first stage, it's easiest if the answer does not contain question marks, because then it could be seen as a new question. So here we see a question and an answer, a question and an answer. In the answers, we can also provide links. We can also provide images, but that's always a subject to check later on if the URLs and the HTML included in the end is correctly formatted, but then we can still change it and update it. Once we have this document, the next step is to save it as a PDF file or convert it to a PDF file, because for the Concierge template we need it in PDF format. And there we have it in PDF. So let's now see what's the next step that we can work on. Alright, we have to import the template in ODA. If we are logged on in our ODA environment, we can go to the hamburger menu and then under development choose skills. Here on the top right we can choose import skill, and inside the folder of our extracted download we find the concierge template.zip. Look at the version number behind to make sure that you have the correct zip file. It might be that there is a newer version by the time you do this training. Let's open this zip file. We now see that the skill is imported in ODA. And it all went fine. We can now clone this template skill and create our own skill. To do that, in the Concierge template skill we imported, we can click the three dots and press clone. Here we have to give it a name. I'll just create an easy name now, Concierge template demo 1, and clone. And here we are in the copy of our Concierge template skill where we can work on now. If we look in this list here on the left of all the configurable items in the skill, we choose the 6th item, knowledge document. And here we can start adding the knowledge document we created earlier as a PDF file. It's very important to give the batch of questions and answers that we are going to import a unique prefix name. So in this case, I just use FAQ. And now we can drag and drop the PDF file created earlier in the box. Acknowledge and create. Now the digital assistant is retrieving the document and scanning for questions and answers and see if there are errors or mistakes in the document. It might take a couple of minutes. While we are waiting, we can already read in the document what next steps we could do. This part we already did. It's also described here how you can add extra questions and answers manually. We won't do that right now. And we see we can create or change the welcome message. If we go back to ODA, we see that the job is finished going through the PDF document. So let's review what was recognized. And on this screen on the left, we can see the document. And the red lines are recognized questions. The blue text is recognized answer. And we can see if everything went well in the document here. And our document was formatted correctly. We see that all questions and answers were taken into account. And then here on this side, we can see the question recognized, the answer recognized. It was given a name. This is the intent name we will see later on. And it is prefixed with FAQ, the prefix we specified when we imported the document. And a lot of sample questions are generated by the import mechanism to train the language engine later on. So let's go through this. We can also edit them before we import them, or we can disable them to exclude it. Everything looks good, so let's add these questions and answers to our skill. Yes. If we now go to this first icon, the intent tab of the skill, we can see all the questions and answer intents that are imported now. And these intents are the things that this digital assistant, this skill, can recognize when a user is asking something. So let's take an example. This one, for how long can I use my free trial credits? We see it has a name, it has a description and a conversation name, and this is actually the question from the document. There's an answer, and we can edit the answer here, or provide translations in other languages that we want to support. And here we have all the sample questions to get to this answer. So this was generated by the import for how long can I use, how long can I use, and a lot of questions. And we can add our own questions here to improve the training model, and we can always do that later on if we recognize that some questions were not recognized correctly. So what we need to do now is to train this model. We press train in the top right, and we have to specify the trainer TM model. The disadvantage is that it takes quite a long time compared to the HT one, but the good news is that it's really taking the NLP engine instead of keywords and these kind of things. So let's do this now, and while it's training we can continue with our skill and go further. And one of the things that we saw in the document is that we can change the welcome message. So therefore we have to go to the resource bundle section, that is this icon in the left navigation bar. Scroll up, there it is. And then if we filter this on parts with welcome in it, we find the welcome message and the image URL of the image that we want to show in the message. In the resource bundle, all the pieces of text that this skill is using are configured, and they have their own name and the text of that item. And this is also the way how you can manage separately different languages, different translations, etc. So let's change our welcome message here. Welcome to my first digital assistant created during the short training. Let's remove that. And also in the welcome message we might provide an image, a logo or whatever. We'll leave this one for now, but you can replace it with your own URL. Let's go further through the document. And we see that once the training is finished, we can start testing it. So the training is finished. Let's see if the digital assistant works. We go to the tester, and here below we can type hi. And hi is one of the words in the training model that ends up at the welcome text. And here we see the image, and we see the text that we changed, welcome to my first digital assistant. So let's see what other kind of questions were in our document. What is Oracle Cloud Free Tier? Who should use Oracle Cloud Free Tier? Who is eligible, etc. What is free tier? And we see, since the training model currently is still a bit limited, that it found multiple answers that might satisfy our question. And then it shows this in a list. It says, okay, what is Oracle Cloud Free Tier? What is free trial? So let's look at this answer. And we get the answer, and we can also say, okay, we like that answer or we don't like that answer. So later on in the analytics, we can see which questions and answers were satisfying for the user. Who can use it? That's not recognized. We're gonna fix that later. For who is Cloud Free Tier? Who's eligible? Who should use? Let's choose that one. Cool. Okay, let's close the tester and see in the document what's next. So we did test it. We did get an unresolved intent, so we can fix that later. You can also change the text that it should reply with. Also again at the resource bundle section, and then looking for unresolved message. And the next step is a menu. We can choose to have a menu when a user types help or what can I do or these kind of things. and then show some of the most frequently used questions in our FAQ. Let's see how that works. So in our skill, we can go to the intents and we can filter again. Let's see, menu. There we have a menu intent. And this was trained with help, menu, show menu, what can you do? And you can add more sentences here if you want to improve the training model. Whenever you change something on the intents tab, at the end you should not forget always to train again. Don't do it for every small change because it takes some time, but if you do it after a lot of changes, you have the latest and best training model again. So let's now look at the menu flow, and before we go there, let's see which questions and answers we want to show when the user asks for a menu. Let's delete this filter and look through the questions and answers. Who should use Oracle Cloud Free Tier? And because we need that later on when we define the menu, we copy the name and we temporarily store it in a text document to use later on. Let's find another one for our menu. What are always free services? Let's take that one also. And let's take a third one. What payment methods? So let's use these three menu items when a user asks for help or a menu. And therefore we have to change the flow that gets triggered when a user asks for a menu or for help. And the flows can be found on the third icon, flow. And here we can also see that the intent menu is connected to the flow menu. So here we see this flow. And there's only one stage in this flow, and that's the state that shows the menu and a user can click on something. Let's select it. And here we see the definition of that state, and the most important part is the response item, because this determines what gets generated and sent to the user. At first this might be too complex to go through every detail, but we can see that here it starts with a text, just giving a message to the user, and within these quotes you can type anything you want. But if you want to keep it manageable and multilingual, we can point to a resource bundle, Z menu options. And so here in the resource bundle tab, we can find that item, menu options, and it might say in English, these are some options you can do here. And you can also put translations in there, etc. And then there were actions defined. And the actions are basically buttons that the user can click on, and then the text that we configure here is sent to the digital assistant to find the correct intent and show the answer. And what we see here is that the label shown on the button is also a resource bundle, and the resource bundle points to a name of an intent. The descriptive name in normal text, and we see here system flow name, and we replace this dummy ans intent 1 with one of the selected intents in our list. And when the user clicks that button, we want to send that text to the digital assistant so it gets to the correct answer. Now we're going to do that also for all the other ones. Intent 2, intent 2, and the last one, intent 3, intent 3. Be aware that this descriptive language is very critical for spaces. So if you do it like this, it won't work anymore. Please be aware that you keep the same structure here, and as long as you only change the values, the red parts, there's no problem and we can apply this. So let's test it to see what happens. We go to preview and I say help. And here we see the 3 buttons and also the text coming from the resource bundle. And in the 3 buttons we see the names of the 3 intents we put in there. And if I click on what are always free services, a message is sent, what are always free services. And then we end up, of course, with the intent that contains the answer. So the menu seems to work also. And we close the tester again. So let's scroll down in our document to see what else we can do. So we did all this, we changed the intent names. Then we have this feedback feature we've seen in the tester already. And we can look at the analytics now to see what the result of this feedback is. And for the analytics, we go to this icon here with the small graph. And we can see here that a nice dashboard is already available out of the box. We don't need to configure anything for that, but we can see what kind of things were asked, if they were just answer intents or there were intents with a whole flow behind it, like the menu or the help one. We can see what users were asking, and because we just created this and only did a few things, it's not very informative right now. We can see channels used if we have multiple channels. We can see language if we have multiple languages. We can look at the custom metrics. And in the custom metrics, you can see the positive, negative scores. So we can see what is free tile, what are always free services, who should use Oracle free tier. And we can see here all the positive responses we receive. We can also see the negative ones, but we don't have them yet. Here we can see per intent how much it was triggered, what the status was, etc. But it's all very empty right now because we just started. We can see the path that users can follow through the digital assistant. So we have showing answers. In conversations, we can look at the history of all the conversations that went on in this digital assistant. So if we look at the last one here, we can look exactly what the users have been asking and what they have been doing. And now maybe the most important part of the analytics, the retrainer module. We can here see very easily which intents get to the unresolved intent, which means that basically the digital assistant did not recognize the question of the user. And we saw that happening when we tested it, when I typed who can use it. Who can use it did not resolve to the correct intent. So what we can do now, we can say we select this one and we find the correct intent we want this question to go to. And let's say we connect it to who should use Oracle Cloud Free tier. And if we add this example now to the language model, then the who can use it sentence is connected to the who should use Oracle Cloud Free tier intent. And that means that not only this specific sentence is recognized the next time it's used, but also sentences that are like this sentence. So the training is much more advanced based on a lot of AI and language processing rules to make the language model better and better. And if we look now here at intents, And which one did we choose? Who should use Oracle Cloud Free Tier? There's also a sample sentence. Who can use it? Right? And since we changed the language model, of course you have to train again. And in this case, let's do it right now. And in the meantime, we can look in our document what next steps we can take. So there's a whole explanation here about the analytics part, the things we can do there, how we can add unresolved items to our training model. In the document, we also explain how you can create your own custom intents with custom flows. For example, when you want to have conditional answers, like for what part do you want to see this, or what department are you, or whatever. We'll skip it for now. There are also all kinds of parameters in the digital assistant. Out of the box, they are quite good configured already. But if you want to change them, here's the explanation, and you can find them here at the settings part. Under configuration, scroll down. You'll have here the 3 parameters of the Concierge template that define when the digital assistant is confident enough to show a single answer, or when it should show the carousel where users can scroll through multiple answers, etc. And then we get to using the web SDK. And this is actually, I think, a very good step to do always, because in the web SDK you can really see what the digital assistant will look like for the end user, because the tester does not support all the URL and linking stuff that you might include in your answers. So let's have a look at this and create a channel, create a web interface, and test it. So therefore, we first need to create a channel. Go to the hamburger menu, go to the channels part, and there we create a new channel. And in this channel, let's say demo CT, and it's a web channel. We choose the channel type, and the last one is Oracle Web. We specify an asterisk as allowed domains, so it can run anywhere. But if you want this to be connected to your website and only be available in your website, you can also say yourwebsite.com, and then it will only work and respond to users that are using this digital assistant on this domain. But for now it's just good. We don't need authentication now, and the session expiration, whatever you want, let's say 1 hour. And we create it. Once this channel is created, we have to connect it to a digital assistant. And I think we had this one, CT Demo 1. And we have to enable the channel. Now we need 2 parts in the web SDK to connect this channel with this skill to that web front end. And one part is the channel ID. So let's copy that. And another part is the URL. And let's copy that. And we don't need all this part behind it. And also we don't need the HTTPS. So we now have the URL and the channel ID. Let's go to the web SDK that was included in the download. There's a web.zip. Let's export it. And here we have an index.html. If we open this, we see a default page or a dummy page, so you can use it. And here we have the digital assistant placeholder, but of course currently it's not connected to our skill yet. So let's do that first. And therefore we need to go to scripts and edit the Concierge.js script. Here there are only two lines that are important. The URI, that's this part, including the last slash behind.com. And therefore we take this one we copied earlier. And then we have the channel ID here. And we take the channel ID of the channel that we created. Also, if you have defined multiple languages, you can say what's the default language, so the language to start in. And there are also options to make it automatically conform to the language of the browser or the language of the user, and all kind of other options. And you can replace all the pieces of standard text in the web widget, like the menu button or how can I help you. If you hover over here, you can see how can I help you, and that's changed in this line. And you can also specify that for different languages. Yeah, but if you want to keep it default, you don't need to change anything here. So let's save this document, the Concierge.js, and go back here now to our page, refresh, and if we open it now, we should see my first digital assistant. We have a menu button here, and we see our menu. And this is basically exactly the same what we saw earlier, but now we can see the full rendering of the images, etc. Is it always free? And here we can see what is free trial and whatever. Cool, this works. Let's now see how we can upload this in the public cloud, so we can also give it to other users to test it or experiment with it. Because currently, of course, it's running on my local hard disk. If you want to make this public, you should take care that you put it on a web server, and it can be any web server you have running. But for now, let's use the Oracle Cloud for that and show how you can do that in the Oracle Cloud. So therefore, we need to go to our cloud account, go to the bucket section and the correct compartment that you are allowed to use, and we create a new bucket. CT demo and create it. We see that default the visibility is private, but since we want everyone to be able to go to our web page and use our digital assistant, let's change the visibility to public. And there is nothing of importance in this bucket, only HTML and JavaScript. It's just like a regular web server. And now here we can create folders. And there are a couple of folders we have to create. If you look to the structure of our website and our web widget for the digital assistant, we see images, scripts, and styles. So let's create images. Scripts. And styles. Okay, in this main directory, we have to upload the index.html. Upload, close. Now we have the index.html. Let's go to the images, upload, go to images, select the images, upload, close. We go back one level to scripts, upload, scripts, upload, close, go up one level, styles, upload, drop the styles, upload, close, go up one level. And now if we look at this index.html, there are 3 dots here, and we can view the object details. And if we click on that link, we end up with a public URL. So this URL can be given to anyone that you want to test your digital assistant. It's still connected to the same channel and the same skill that we created earlier. So let's say, what is Oracle free tier? And we have multiple answers here. What is free trial? Don't like that answer. And we can test here, use the menu, what payment methods? Okay, don't like that. Menu, who should use? Yeah, excellent. We can restart it, restart again. And that's basically the first setup you do with a digital assistant. And this is everything we did to make the web SDK work, put it in the bucket, and that's the end of the document. If you now start using this, continuing with it, improving it, the most important part is testing. Look at the analytics retrainer page to see which ones went wrong and add them to the training model. And once you have added a lot of these sample sentences to the training model, like 5 or 10 or something per intent, then you will notice that the training gets better and better, and all kinds of questions that the user is asking about this subject will end up at the correct answer. And that's basically it. Thank you for your attention.